Welcome back to another Tableau tutorial. We are going to build this Godzilla dashboard. Let's go. I tend to focus on operational dashboards, but in this one, we're just going to have some fun. But we're still going to progress through all the steps. That means we're going to bring the data in, we're going to do data modeling, then we're going to build the individual elements, then we're going to compile them into a dashboard, perform some styling, some color themes, make sure the layout's right, and then we're going to publish it to Tableau Public so we can share it with the world or potential employers. To get started, we need the dataset. So click on the description below. It'll take you to the Jellyman Education website, specifically this one. So this is the Godzilla dashboard. And if you scroll down, you'll see this YouTube video. So you simply click on that or the download file button underneath that. It will take you to Google Drive and you can download this dataset simply by clicking this button up here. That's it. Once we've downloaded the dataset, it's time to bring it into Tableau. So the file you get will look like this. Let me zoom in. It's a zip file. So for those that don't know, I did get this question a few times. To extract that, because it's a zip file, just right click it and go extract all. Mac will be something similar, and you will get a file that looks like this without that little zip. You need to do this in order to bring it into Tableau. So when you open it up, you're going to get, I think, 7 files. 3 of them are images that we're going to use for the dashboard styling you can see behind. And then 4 of them are data sets. Usually, or at least the videos we've done so far, it's a single data set. But in this one, we're going to do a little bit of modeling. So for those that have never done modeling, I'll show you what it looks like in Tableau. So I'm going to head over here to the data source. And basically we do the modeling to bring data together in a professional setting. It could be when you work in maybe a large organization, different teams own different data sets. So by joining them in Tableau, we're able to relate the information. So in here, in the data source view, you can see how it's connected. And this is exactly what we're going to do now. So now I'm going to jump over to a blank Tableau and we're going to get started. All right, here I have a blank Tableau file. This is actually the latest version, 2025.2, but they're all pretty much the same these days. And you'll see all the files here. The one you want to bring in is this Godzilla sighting. So this is basically the first file that everything will latch to. So if you take this, we're just going to drag it and drop it into Tableau, and you can literally drop it anywhere, like so. And what that will do is they'll bring in the first file. It will also tell Tableau what this location is. And as you can see here, this is the connection. It's telling it where to find the file. And because this is a CSV, it actually tells us all the other files that exist in the same location. You can bring these elements in here to do your joins, or again, you can continue to drag and drop. We're going to pull it here from the left side because it's a little bit more convenient. So now let's expand this and let's begin our relationships. So let's bring in this first one. So the audio signal, I'm going to drag it and I'm going to drop it in here. Now be sure not to create another base table and just drop it here. And you can see this kind of squiggly line, which is called a relationship. And when you drop it in, Tableau is going to relate them. And in here, if the fields that you're using to join them, to relate them, is in both data sets and they're named the same, generally speaking, Tableau is able to figure out which ones to join with. But if it doesn't do that, or it makes some mistakes or joins things that it shouldn't, you can simply click here, and let me see if I can zoom in. You hover and you'll see this little trash can and you just get rid of that connection. So I'm going to do that now so you guys get some practice. And when you do that, Tableau is going to give you an error, which means you've got 2 data sets that have no relationship. So Tableau doesn't know what to do with it. So we're going to check here on the left side and go for sighting ID. That's what we're going to use to match the data sets. We're going to use the equals operator. That's fine. And then we're going to go signal ID. Oh, sorry, not signal. Sighting ID. There you go. Now, as you can see here as well, because sighting ID's got the same name, it actually has this additional phrasing to say which data source it came from. And once you do that, the error will be fixed. And now we can actually see our data set coming through. When you click on each of these, you can actually view the data in each one. Okay, so this is Godzilla sighting. You can see this is a site ID, and the one on the right is the other one. Now, interestingly, if you've ever done joins in Tableau or joins in SQL or whatever, when you do a join, a physical join, it creates a new table. But in Tableau, when you're using relationships, and if you want to learn about relationships, I have a course on my website. I believe it's in the expert section of Tableau. It goes through this in depth if you want to learn more about this. It treats them as two separate tables all the time until you do a visualization and it triggers the computation, which has performance benefits, which I won't get into here in depth, but again, check out the course if you want to know more about that. So that's the first one, and we're just going to repeat this for the other one. So it'll be for the ground signal and the thermal signal. So I'm going to bring this in. Again, make sure you drop it when you have a squiggly. Don't drop it underneath because you'll accidentally do a union. Don't drop it here. You're going to end up with a base table. So again, we want a squiggly like so. And you can see here, Tableau has done the right relationship. Let's bring in thermal signal like so. And again, Tableau has figured out the right one. And that is it for the relationships. All I'm going to do now is just save this. So save as, just to make sure. And I'm trying to get people to do this more often as well now because it's so easy to lose files. So I'm just going to call this tutorial v1. Save. And then here on the bottom left, my screen stops flickering. There we go. In order to start the visualization mode, we simply click Sheet 1. It even gives you a little alert there. And that gets you into design mode. And we're ready to move on to the next step. So before we start building the individual elements, let's just have a quick look at the dashboard itself of how it's pieced together. Really, when you look at dashboards like this, it may look a little bit complicated if you're new to Tableau, but let me break it down. Super simple. You've got this one, which is a heat map on the bottom left, right? 3 elements in there, pretty straightforward. This is really just a bar chart with a few more cuts. This is a scatter plot, takes a few clicks. This one is, again, another bar chart. So don't ever think, especially with Tableau, that most things are more complicated than they are. They're actually just really simple elements, right? But put in a really creative way. And this bottom one here is just a map. Again, a few clicks and you've got this. The rest is styling. So this one is an image. The background is an image. This is text. That's an image by itself. And that's it. So honestly, any beginner is going to be able to do this. So now let's begin by creating this first heat map. Okay, here we are in the blank Tableau. I'm just going to open this up a little bit. The area we're going to be, or the data set really we're going to be using is this one right here, the thermal signal. If you can't see it, it may be minimized, as you can see. So just hit that little kind of arrow button to expand it. I actually like to minimize things I'm not using, just clears the brain a bit, and it prevents you from accidentally bringing something in that sounds very similar. So to do this, well, to do any heat map, if you think about it, it's 3 elements. It's the rows, the columns, and then what's inside. So to do that, we're going to bring in sensor location into rows. And straight away, you got your first one. This is going to come together so easily. And then we're going to do the signal ID up on top. All right, that's going to split it up like this. Is it signal ID? Let me just double check, just make sure. It's siding ID. I knew it was wrong. Siding ID. It seemed too long. There we go. That looks right. And then you can see all these ABC. So whenever you see ABC, it just means data exists for that particular item. So in terms of the data set, there is something where the thermal sensor -1 exists for GZ001 in your data set. Now you choose what measure goes in here. That's it. So now if I do I believe it's radiation level, and I'm just going to drop it into color here. That's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to take that, and whenever you bring a measure in, it's going to aggregate at using sum, just as a default. So So let's bring radiation level into color. There's your heat map. It's honestly that simple, and that's all we need to do for this first one. Now let's move on to the bar charts. So in this case, we're actually taking fields from more than just one location. So sensor location actually comes from this one, the Godzilla ground signal. So let's start by bringing it in one at a time. So Godzilla ground signal, and I'm going to bring in sensor location into the columns. And because we've arranged it with relationships, you can bring anything in because Tableau knows how to relate the fields. And therefore, when we want to bring in and bring the other one, casualties dead, everything will work smoothly. And casualties dead actually comes from this part. And if I bring it into rows, I will have my bar charts right away. And you can see Tableau automatically aggregates to a sum, and you have a bar chart. That is the minimum number of elements you need for every bar chart. A dimension that breaks it up, and then a measure to determine the amplitude. Next, you can if you add more items, all it does is it splits this data up further, or it gives you another set of bar charts. So we're going to start by adding another measure here. So let's go to the other one, just check what it is. So the other one is casualties injured. And as you can see, when you add this one, it's going to create a whole nother set underneath. So let's bring in casualties injured. If you can't find it, there's always a search bar in here, which when you work professionally, that thing's going to save your life, because we deal with data sets with 200 plus fields, which is very frustrating sometimes. But now that I brought that in, you can see we have our second set of bar charts right underneath. And then all we're doing after that is really breaking that up into multiple sections, as you can see. Okay, now let's bring that in. Now here you can see it's sensor location, so you can see the individual sensors. Okay, but in this one, each sensor is broken up further into these individual bars, which is done by the sighting ID. In this case, it's coming from Godzilla sightings. So let's go in here. Let's look for sighting ID, and we're simply going to bring that here. And this 700, for example, is going to split up using this sighting ID, like so. There you go. So now if I add this up, you can see it's about that 700 number. All it's done is that it's split it. We're not going to do any styling. We just have the framework of what we need for the dashboard, and that's it.
So before we continue, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone that watches the content. Be sure to check out the Jellyman Education website. There is a 2-month free coupon in the description below. It is absolutely free with that coupon for 2 months. So you just go in, sign up, enjoy the content. And if at the end of the 2 months you're not interested, just cancel, no big deal. The advantage of the site versus on YouTube is just a video. But on the site, it's a learning management system. So you can actually enroll into individual courses. You can track your progress. It'll track what you're up to. You'll be able to get downloadables. In addition to just the simple files in YouTube that I give you, you also get a lot more assets in these lessons. So for example, you get a huge image collection. There'll be extra downloadables. There's a whole bunch of ebooks. There's like cheat sheets that you can get. There's other portfolios that you can see. If I just scroll down here, there's heaps of other courses, and I'm building more and more as I go. And it covers a wide range of topics. And once you enroll, once you sign up, you get access to everything. It is that simple.
The next element we're building is the map. And maps are just about the easiest thing you can make. All you need is a few elements and you will have something pretty damn stylish. So let's now jump over to the other one. We are basically using city and casualties injured. So let's do a new sheet. And let's look for the city field. So you gotta check a few things whenever you do maps. First is just ensure it's a geographical data type. And let me zoom in and show you what I mean by that. You can see this symbol here, which is a globe. That means it's a geographical data type, but it also has to be assigned correctly. This is a city data type. So when I click on that symbol, you're going to see string, which is fine because it is a word. And then geographical role, it's been set to city. So make sure it's set to the correct one. 9 times out of 10, you never have to check this because Tableau's pretty smart. But if it doesn't recognize it, you got to do this. Sometimes it's not called city. It could be called C underscore whatever, because it's just how it's been stored in the data set. Then Tableau may not recognize it. All you do is click on that symbol, set it to string, set it to geographical role city, and you're in business. Once you have that, all you do to create a map is double click the city. Give it a few seconds, and it's going to put it on the map. Now, in some cases, as you can kind of see here, nothing shows up. And that is because usually in the data set, you also have which country. So Tableau tries to match up the city or the state or whatever it is to the country it belongs to, if that field exists in your data. If it doesn't, all you do is you go map, edit locations, and we know this is going to be in Japan. So we're going to go here, instead of country, region, Australia, we're going to set this to Japan. As you can see there. Okay, and then the city field is city, and as you can see now it's assigned them correctly rather than giving errors, except for this one place, okay, which we're going to ignore for the moment. And we're going to go okay, and watch what happens to the map behind us. There you go. So now it's got Japan. Now you can see these individual cities. All I'm going to do is add the coloring in and then just make them a little bit bigger. We're not going to get fussy with the styling just yet. So the field we need is, I believe, casualties. Injured or dead? Injured. And we're going to drop that into size. And what that does is it sizes it based on the sum of casualties injured for that city. Okay, you can see the little dots there. They've changed shape a little bit. And the most we're going to do is just make them bigger, just so we can see them. That's it. That's all we're going to do. Map is done. The next element we're going to build is the scatter plot. And again, very easy to do once you understand how many elements you need. You only need 3 to get started. One is for this axis, one is for the other axis, and then how you want to break up the points. So this can represent cities, this can represent siting IDs, this can represent sensor locations, whatever dimension you want. So now let's jump over to the other one and I'll show you how to build this. So we're in thermal signal. Let's close this up. Okay, now I'm going to open up just thermal signal. I'm going to create a new sheet. So to create a scatter plot, it's 2 successive steps that you got to do. One is the first measure and then the second measure. That gets you halfway there. Let me just scratch my ear. Okay. Double click radiation level and that will create a bar chart. When you add your second measure, it will make it a scatter and you have to double click. And what that does is Tableau puts one aggregation here, one there, okay, so not on the same one, and then those 2 sum values creates a coordinate in a scatter plot. Now I can do that manually as well. Say I bring in radiation level and temperature. Tableau still knows. It's just simpler when you're learning to just double click one at a time. Okay, so it's going to be temperature on the top. Okay, so you see it's put it on the bottom. Radiation there. So if you ever wanted to switch this, you can do it manually and just by moving it around. But the easier way to do it, if you ever wanted to swap everything in columns with everything in rows, is simply to press this transpose button. And I'm going to go ahead and do that so that temperature is on the top. Okay, so that's the first part to get it into scatter mode. Then we have to tell it how we want to display the points. In this case, it's going to be by siting ID. So let's bring in siting ID, and we have to drop this into detail. Okay, and that, you can see the little symbol there, it splits one into many. So if I drop siting ID into detail, it will now create those individual points. And that's it. That's your scatter plot. The last element we're going to build is a final bar chart. And this one is very similar to the one we did previously, except there's no second measure. And therefore, you only see one set of bar charts. Now, if that's a little bit hard to see, I'm just going to tweak this for the moment. But you can see they're they're just bar charts. They just styled a little bit differently. So let's go ahead and build this. And we just need Godzilla ground signal. Okay, let's create a new sheet. We're going to go into Godzilla ground signal. And as you can see, I'm minimizing things that I don't need, because a lot of these fields sound similar. And I see this all the time by professional analysts. They end up wasting so much time because they have to go back and fix and tweak things, which takes a long time when your data sets are massive. So you want to be very clean, very clean. Make sure you're very organized, and it just prevents you from making mistakes that you have to clean up later. So Godzilla ground signal, we have it there. And we need the siding ID. Let's bring in siding ID. Okay. And if you do it this way, you see first it splits it up, and then it's basically asking you what measure do you want to use. In our case, it's magnitude. Okay. But if that doesn't really make sense to you, what I actually recommend is always start with the measure, because when you bring this in, if I bring it into rows, you're starting with a very simple thing and a physical thing you can see. The total number is 713. I am now splitting up that number. So if I bring in siding ID, I'm splitting up that 713, 713 or 730? 713, you can see the magnitude there, 713. That's all it's doing. So you're just cutting up the bar chart more and more and more, okay? If I go into the other one, and we just need the signal ID, which again cuts it up. So for example, this one, the sum is about 62. So we're going to bring in the signal ID. So now if I look at this first one, if I add these ones up, it's 62. Another way to look at this, if again you're trying to understand this for the first time, is if I color code each one of these using siding ID, okay? If I cut this up using the signal ID in a certain way, you see the little cuts there. You can't see it. Hang on, let me just tweak this. This is just for education. You can see that's the individual signal IDs, but instead of them stacked, I'm just spreading them out. So if I bring in signal ID here, all I'm doing is I'm splitting out those bars. That's all I'm doing. Okay. But for now, we're just going to leave it like that. That is basically the bar chart. Actually, no, one thing we're going to do is just go up here and switch this to entire view just to squeeze them all together. Okay, so now we're a bit closer to that final image. Now that we've got all the individual elements, we are now going to start compiling the dashboard. So let's go into the other one. And before we do that, very important, we're going to rename these sheets to what they represent, because once I go into dashboard mode, which let's do that now. If I go into here and click this button, this middle one with the squares, that'll create a dashboard for me. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. When you do that, if you haven't renamed these sheets, it's hard to know what each sheet is. And again, this is where people waste a lot of time. They go, is it this one? They bring it in. They go, no, that's not the right one. Let me get rid of this. Is it this one? Let me bring. Again, you're wasting time. Okay. If you add up all these kind of inconsistencies that you do, you end up adding days, if not weeks, to projects. And if you're a paid consultant, that's a problem. So let's go ahead and rename these sheets. We're going to call this sensor location heat map. And I'm just double clicking these labels, or you can right click and go rename. Same thing. So we're going to call this sensor location bar. Next one, we're going to call this map. Fourth one, let's call this scatter. And fifth one, we're going to call this final bar. Okay, so now when I go into dashboard 1, you're going to see each one of these. You know exactly what they refer to. We're not going to be wasting time. Now let's size the dashboard itself. This needs to be, I think it's 1600 by 900, and that is so that this background image fits in perfectly. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Just make sure it's on fixed size, and then you just use these arrows. It increases it by 100 px. I don't know if that means pixel. Maybe. Okay, that's the first part. All right, now we're going to bring in the individual elements, but we don't know where they're going to go relative to the background, so we actually need the background first. So here on the bottom left, you're going to see image. Okay, maybe I'll zoom in so you guys can see it if you've never done this before. So objects, image, and we're just going to bring that into the canvas here, into the dashboard. And when you bring it in, you'll notice, and let me try that again. See how it takes up the whole page? That is because you're in tile mode. You can see here on the bottom left, tiled mode. And that means every time you bring in a visualization, see how it's putting them into like fitted tiles? That's basically what it's doing. And because the background's going to go in the very back, it's okay for that step. So we're going to leave that in tiled mode and bring in image, and you can drop it here. Now we're going to search for the background image. So I'm going to go choose, and we're going to look for that image. All right, and here we have it. This is the image that we want, which is the background. I'm going to open this. Okay, and then here in the, so now it's actually linked it up. In the options, we're going to go fit image and center image. Let's just make sure that it will fit the entire background and go okay. There you go. So that's our starting point. What you'll notice once you bring it in is there's all this white space. And if you're a beginner trying to get rid of this white space, you probably had a lot of headache. To get rid of this, or maybe I'll explain what it is first. Whenever you bring an element in, there's always something called padding. If I go into layout, you're going to see, and let me bring this section down, you're going to see this. And it's I think it's always set to 4. 4 on all sides represents that gap on all sides. Want to get rid of that. All right, want it to be all the way to the edge. So I'm going to go 0, just click outside. Now when you do that, there's still a little bit of gap left. Okay, so what is that gap? So when you bring it in as a tile, you're actually adding it into a container. And how do we know this? When you look at the item hierarchy here, you'll see it's actually inside this tile. Okay, so you have two options. Either you can get rid of the container itself, or you can just remove the padding. The padding of that container. And the way to do that is if you see this handle up here, when you've activated the image and you double click it, it will turn blue. That now refers to the container that this image is in. When you do that, you're going to see this number 8. Okay, this means it's got padding of 8. So we're going to get rid of this one. And as you can see, as soon as you do that, it is now perfectly to the edge because this image is sized to be 1600 by 900 when I made it. Okay, so that's one method. The other method is if you want to get rid of the container completely, again, you can double click this handle, or when you've activated it, you'll see this little triangle and go select container tiled. Right now you can see the outer one is selected. Click on that triangle again and go remove container. Okay, that's the other one. But when you do that, the image is now floating. Okay, which means you can place it anywhere. So the way to fix this is you go triangle and you can go, instead of floating, just deselect that. It will make it a tile, but then it kind of goes back to those previous steps. Okay, so again, just different ways to do it. I think I personally prefer just getting rid of the container. Let me just go back a step. All right, so I got the container there. Simply remove container. Okay, and then this one, you can just put it back. Hang on, I messed that up. I think I didn't go back far enough. Hang on. Okay, I went back. Now I've gone too far. Okay. Okay, I've added all my padding in. Hang on, let's just clear that up. Okay, so all I'm doing now is just removing all the padding from the container and everything. There you go. I think that's the better step anyway. So now that we know roughly where everything's going to go, we're going to have some images here, 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 and then we're going to add Mr. Godzilla right in the middle. So in order to do that, we need another image. But now when we add things, they're going to be floating because they're going to be sitting on top of the image. So what you need to do is click on this floating button right here. So now every time you bring it in, it's floating. Okay, so now let's bring in those elements, starting with the image. So on the image button here on the objects, I'm going to drag it in. Just drag it anywhere. We're not trying to get it perfect yet. Okay, we're going to go choose image and look for Mr. Godzilla. There we go, wireframe. fit and center and go okay. We now have Mr. Godzilla, and we're just gonna put it, I don't know, there. Man, there. Okay, so now we're trying to get a feel of how it looks. Okay, so now let's bring in another image up here on the top left, and this is for the title. Choose. You're probably getting the hang of this now. Godzilla. I actually watched this last night. Again. And it was the original, maybe not the original, it was the Matthew Broderick one. So if you've seen it and you like that movie, you know, don't judge the CGI, just put a comment below. It's like that you like that movie too, you know. I want to hear people's opinion about that movie. So, okay. Okay, so now we have Godzilla. Let's bring it here. Okay, we now have him there, and yeah, we're just gonna tweak things a little bit, just see how everything flows. It looks very nice. Okay, now we can bring in the individual elements. So starting with the sensor location, which goes down here on the bottom left. So sensor, you can see when I bring it in, I can put it anywhere. Let's drop it there. And again, we're not trying to get it perfect, because even though we know where it's gonna go, when you're doing this for the first time or you're building something yourself, you don't know where things are going to go. You don't know how it's going to feel. So you don't want to do anything permanent. You just want to see how things fit and then do your permanent stuff. Not permanent, but like your final editing or your final styling and cleanup once you've settled on those positions. Okay, next one is sensor location. Here on the bottom left again. And drop that in here. Okay, we're going to go map, which is here on the bottom right. Let's go here. Gonna get rid of this little legend. We don't need it. Okay. Then we're gonna have the scatter over here. There you go. And the final bar on the top. Okay. Then we're gonna bring in a text box here. Okay, and just type anything at the moment. It's just a placeholder. Go okay. And it's always a little bit hard to see. So just see if you can't find it here or it becomes invisible. If you click on the layout section, every element that you bring in will show up in this hierarchy. So see here, the text box is there. And when you select it from the left, it'll activate it. So you can kind of see it better. And there's a little box here. Okay. There you go. So now we brought in all the elements. Now we're going to get into the styling. So if you look here, the general theme is kind of density and red. Okay, so if I look in this first one, it's a red heat map, it's a red bar chart. Here there's a little bit of white. So if I open this up just to kind of show you, you can see it's a red white to give a bit of contrast, whereas the other ones are probably closer to just pure red. Okay, so it's a slightly different color scale, you can see there. But I'm going to show you how to do this very easily. And the reason, again, I don't do this at the beginning is because if you style each one and then you put them in here and you're like, oh, it doesn't really fit, you have to restyle them again. Okay, so here, instead of doing that multiple times, we just do it once. So let's start with the first one. We're going to add the red, and we're also going to get rid of the white background. There you can see a white background here. So let's go in this first one. I'm just going to resize this just so I can see all the edges. Okay, there we go. So to get rid of the white background, very easy. On the white space, let's say here, if I right click and go format, it's gonna take me, oh hang on, no, I think I'm gonna go on the inside. Format, there we go. You're gonna see this paint can. And that is the shading. And then from there, you're gonna see this worksheet. We wanna set this to none. Let's do that, go none. And as soon as you do that, the back is going to start shining through. Okay, and here you can see a little scroll, and the scroll is because we haven't set this to entire page. So to do that, we're just going to go here to the top and go entire page, entire view, and that's going to fit it into that space. Okay, there you go. That's the first step. Now we're going to be very systematic, so let's do the same for all the other ones. So I'm going to right click here, format, and again, oh, hang on, not the heading. Sorry, this format, paint can, shading, none. Okay, same thing here, format, shading, none. Okay. Now that one looks like nothing happened, but it's just a little bit of a kind of line here that is always white. Same thing here, right click, format, shading, none, right click, format, shading, none. All right, so that's all the shading done. Next, let's jump into colors. So here on this one, to get to the sheet quickly, when you activate it, you're going to see this button, and this is true for every visualization that you pick. You're going to see this button right here, and I recommend you do it this way. When you click this button, it will immediately take you to the sheet that it refers to. This is really important because in a lot of cases we build visualizations that look really similar, or they're exactly the same except for a filter, and you end up editing the wrong one just because it looks similar. So by doing this, it takes you exactly to the right visualization. Okay, there you go. Now, because heat maps already have a color, we just need to adjust it. Two ways you can do it. One is you double click this legend, and that will take you into color mode. Just give it a second. Actually, there's three ways. Or you can press this drop down and go edit colors. Okay, or you can go here into colors and go edit colors. Whichever you prefer is fine. Here in the palette, we're simply going to click red. That's it. Done. Next. There you have your red. Now we're going to do the same thing for the bar. So again, activate, click on that go to sheet. Let's add red. Now we have to do this in two steps because this one is going to have its own color scale, and this is going to have its own color scale. If you don't do them separately, you end up coloring this based on the scale up here, which is a big mistake unless you're very intentional about it. So let me show you why that's a problem. So you see, excuse me, see this bottom one here, which is the casualties injured. Oh man. Okay, now I'm good. If you color it using casualties dead, let me find it here. Watch what happens. Okay, and I'm gonna color this red, like so. You don't have to do this. It's just a demo. The dark colors are misleading because it draws the eye, so people could misread that saying, "Oh, that's the highest number." Now it may seem obvious that it isn't, but you'll be surprised how many people misread visualizations. So don't do that. So we want to make sure that we're coloring it using the correct measure. And the best way to account for that is whenever you click a measure, right? You see as I click here, this is flickering, right? And that is because when you click this measure, it opens up the one that connects to this, okay? This one connects to this, and as you have more of them, it will connect to every measure as you go along. Okay, so click on the first one, casualties dead, and holding control on your keyboard, or I think it's command on a Mac, I think. If you drag this sum of casualties into color, it duplicates that pill. And the reason we do that is because in Tableau, there's a lot of things you can do on this pill on the fly. I can go in, I can go +1, I can do calculations, I can make this into a percentage, I can do quick table calculations, etc. These are all done after the fact. So whatever you do to this in terms of the value that gets represented is not reflected here. So if you have done stuff to here on the top and you bring in casualties injured from the left, it's coloring on a completely different scale, right? Or it's sizing on a different scale, or the labels are wrong, or whatever it is. So this is just a fail-safe way. Fail-safe? This is kind of a safe way to do it to make sure you're always coloring on what you're seeing. Okay, that's the first one. Let's click the second one. See, this is now changed. Again, hold control, casualties injured, and drop it into color. Right, and this one's a different color. So we're gonna go colors, edit colors. We're gonna switch this as well to red. And go close. That's it for the next one. Now we're going to skip map for the moment. Let's go into scatter. Now I'm going to bring up the other one so you can see what the scatter looks like. It is a red-white scale, and it's coloring using this radiation level. Let's go in here. So to do this, first of all, we want to make these into solid circles. To do that, we can go in here and go circle. That's one way. Or you can go, it's already set it to shape, but you can explicitly tell it shape. Okay, and here on shape, when you click this, you can select circle. That's another way to do it. Okay, so now we're going to color it using radiation level. And again, we're going to use that control technique. Control, we're going to bring this radiation level in to color. That's the first step. The next one is the size. So I'm going to bring radiation level again into size. Like so. So now they're sizing it. Now we just got to do the color. Edit colors. We're going to go red. Okay, now you can see it on the back. Okay, now the thing is with scatter plots and in some cases line charts, there are areas of the scatter that have no values because maybe your data set is just not close to 0. So if your numbers are very high, your numbers could all be concentrated up here and maybe you have a dot there. And what happens is because of this empty space, it kind of squashes the value and you don't really see the detail. So we can make this so the axis starts from here. So 3000 or 160. Okay, and the way to do that is when you double click this axis, okay, untick this include 0. Like so. You can see this now starts at 170. We do the same thing here for the temperature Celsius. Include 0. Okay, just by double clicking, or you can right click and go edit axis. Okay, and that's it for the scatter plot. Let's do the final bar chart. So you can see here, and I've accidentally colored this differently now when I was testing it. Okay, let's go back to the other one. Let's go here. Oh, where am I now? Oh no, this is the one we're working on. I forgot we were up to this. Okay, go to sheet. And here, we're just going to use control, bring over sum of magnitude into color. And there you go. And then we're going to change this. Instead of just red, we're actually going to do white red. Okay, and the reason for that is when you do this color scale, there's not actually a lot of white. It's just a red closer to white. So to get two colors, if I scroll down, you can pick, for example, this red-black converging. And now you have two colors to choose from. But we want red to be on this right side. So we can click reverse and that just swaps the colors. Like so. And then here on this gray part, instead of it being gray, we're going to change this to pure white. I'm going to click on this and go white. All right, there you go. And I've actually got a border here. I think it's because I was demo something. I'm just going to turn off this border. There you go. And the white does really well in terms of contrast. So dashboard 1, you can see that's looking really nicely. Okay. And the final thing I'll do just for this section here is see all the text is really hard to see. We're going to go format, workbook, and here we're going to go white. And when you do that, we may have to switch back and forth, but you'll start seeing the dashboard come together. All right, let's work on the map. So here I've got map, and let's go to sheet. And we're going to change the background layer as it's called for maps. So in map, go background layers. And instead of it being the light version, click on the style and go satellite. Okay, there you go. And now we're going to color these dots. So the way to do that is we've used sum of casualties. I can either duplicate it from here, or I can just pull it again from this side and go casualties injured. And we're going to drop it into color like so. And then we're going to color this. So edit colors. Just going to set it to red like so. Okay. Now this is a dot, but actually what we want, if I go to the other one, is a density plot. You can see it's kind of glowing there. So I'm going to change this from the automatic into density. When you do that, it's going to look very different. It's going to go back to that blue color. So we're going to go into color, and you'll see here with the color, we have a different set of choices now. We're going to pick, and I can't remember which one I used for the other one. Let me just check this quickly. I remember playing with this a number of times last night. Density red, I think it's red gold. Oh, red dark. Okay. Density red dark. Red dark, like so. And we're gonna make the size a little bit bigger. Now don't get too fussy with this sizing, because the sizing here isn't the same as the sizing once you go into the dashboard. Okay, so if I go to the dashboard, you'll see, because the map shrinks, but the circles stay the same, the sizing is kind of relative. Let's go back here. Let's see what else I added. So I've added some like coastlines and other bits of detail. So in the background layers, let's just see. Base, yeah, and a few labels. So let's add those in as well. So here in map, we'll go back to background layers. Let's go streets. I think I added states. Okay, and it adds a little bit more detail. Okay, I think maybe even cities. Nah, that's maybe a bit too dense. We also want to add the labels for these cities. So if I go to city and drop that into label, okay, so now we have some little labels here. Okay, all right, so that is now the map. Now we're going to clean up the rest of the visualization. So things that we don't need, for example, this sensor location, we're going to go hide. Now we're just kind of doing the final cleanup. We're going to get rid of this label here. These labels, we're going to rotate. See how you can't really read them. So right click, rotate. So now we can see those labels. We're going to extend this thermal sensor. Okay. This is a great thing about heat maps. You can fit a lot in a small space. This one, again, we're going to get rid of this field label. That one looks good. All right, we've just got a title there. The scatter looks okay. Let's get rid of this. Now, and rotate these ones. Let's give that a second. I don't think I did it. There you go. And actually, I just remembered on the other one, it doesn't have this split. We can actually just get rid of it entirely. Show header. And let's get rid of the other part as well. Okay, the bottom bit is there. All right, now let's add the text. So here, I'm going to grab this. Okay, and I'll kind of let you pause it so you can copy this part. So here on this text box, I'm going to double click. I'm going to paste it. I'll make it black. And I'll zoom in so you guys can kind of copy this. It's a very short bit of text. Okay. Ground shaking signal, you can probably just pause it here and just copy the text. Don't worry about this part. Just get the the capital and bold up here and the text, and then we'll do the rest in font. Because for font, we can apply it to the whole dashboard. That one. Oh, hang on, I forgot to change color back. So white. Okay, we're gonna copy each of these labels now. And again, you just kind of pause it as you go for what you want to copy. Okay, I'm just going to zoom in for you. There you go. Sensor location, heat concentration in position GZ10. Let's do the next one. Okay, this one is mass casualties across all 5 sensor positions. I think I actually got a spelling mistake there. Yep. Okay, let's check the map. Let's copy this. I'll zoom in for you. Southern Japan is the hardest hit. Let me zoom in one more time. Medical and military required. Okay. All right, let's go into the scatter. Just copying these out. Okay, and maybe I'll do the other one and zoom in at the same time. zoom in. All right, so that's for those two, if you want to pause it. All right. Okay, so that's all the text done. Now we're going to get the final placements. Now here you can see, you could try and align them yourself, but that gets really annoying. So we're going to use containers. So here in the dashboard section, you're going to see horizontal container. So we're going to bring that in, just drop it anywhere like so, and just make sure you've got this set to floating. Okay, and we're going to bring this one in. Now this takes a little bit of a trick. I want to drop this inside the container. So the way to do that is, once you've activated it, grab the handle, go over it and hold shift. You can see it actually drops inside. Okay, I'm going to take this next one, same thing, grab the handle, hold shift. Now, because there's already one in there, it's going to ask you where you want to put it. We're going to put it here on the right side. Okay, then we want to select the container. So the way to do that is I'm going to double click this handle. I'm going to click on this triangle and I'm going to go distribute contents evenly. All right, and that splits it right in the middle. We're now going to move this over here. And if you're struggling to move it, just be sure that you're holding the container. Okay, so the way to do that is if you select inside, double click the handle. Now you've got the container. And now we're going to move this. Okay, so that it fits nicely. There you go. See how easy that is? So Japan, the map one looks fine. We're going to use a vertical container for this one. So here on the bottom left. Vertical container. Oh, bit of a lag. Okay, let's bring in this one. Again, grab the handle, hold shift, drop it in. Grab the handle, hold shift, and drop it in underneath. Okay, and then to select the whole thing, just double click this handle. And now let's place it. Oops. There we go. Okay, I think this one is fine. Now you can see that these visualizations are pretty much touching, which I don't usually like. I always like just a little bit of a gap. So for example, in this one, the gap is actually an inner padding of 10. Okay, so now if I go in here, we're going to do the same thing. So on this one, we're going to go layout. Okay, let me just expand this. And instead of an inner padding of 0, we're going to set this to 10. Okay, and that gives just enough space in between. And we're also going to add a border. And it's going to be a very dark red. So we're going to go more colors. Let's go red, top right, and just go just above black. Just above, like there. Go OK. And you'll barely be able to see it. Yeah, I can actually barely see it. Let's go a little bit closer to red, actually. There. Okay. All right. It's very faint, but it's there. Okay. And that's what you want. Let's do the next one. Inner padding of 10. Let's go border, and that color will now be saved as the last one. Same thing. This one, the map, same thing. Inner padding of 10. Then we're going to go border, black, or close to black. We're going to go scatter plot, inner padding 10. Okay, border, black. Last one, inner padding of 10. Border, black. There you go. Okay, and we can just size a few things here and there if we need to. Okay, but I'm pretty happy with that. Let's just check and compare. Now, one thing you'll notice is the lines, the grid lines, aren't as strong in this one. So we need to adjust that for the others. And also this one didn't have that white line. So to make this disappear, or be close to disappearing, it's not turning it off, it's turning it close to black. So let's go here into the heat map. Let's go format. And when you do that, you're going to see border, this one, which is the fourth one. And here in this row divider, column divider, we're just going to switch this pane one. Okay, if it exists. So here in pane, we're going to go, let's try this one. Maybe this one. Yeah, I think this one's the one we want. The second one. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for each one, for whatever lines are appropriate. So in this one, We're going to right click, go format, borders, and here we're going to go this one. You can see it's made it close to invisible, but you can still see these grid lines for this. So we're going to go into grid lines, this one here. We're going to go into rows, which is the row grid line. And we're going to go to that same color. You can see now the data is shining through. Let's go to the map. For the map, it's actually this border one. Again, we're going to do the same thing. Once you do this a number of times, you kind of get used to it. Okay, here on the map, on the scatter plot, format, border. Does this one have a border? I would have thought it did. No, it doesn't. I think it's just grid lines. So grid line, we're going to go rows. There we go. This one. Oh, I know. It's because in scatter plots, these are actually zero lines. So here's zero line. We're going to go here. Is it zero line or axis rulers? It's axis rulers. All right, so just set that to be that black, and zero lines can't hurt. Okay. This last one, same thing. Right click, format, border, this color. You see them all slowly start to disappear. And then grid lines for the rows, like so. Okay, our dashboard is done. Yeah. With our dashboard now complete, we're going to publish it to Tableau Public. So I'm using Tableau Desktop. So to publish a Tableau Public using Desktop Edition, if you go Server, Tableau Public, save to Tableau Public as. If you're using the Tableau Public version, which is the free version, I hated that they used public, yeah, whatever. Tableau Public free version, it's not in Server, it's inside in the File section. And under here, you'll see Save to Tableau Public as. After that button, everything else is the same. So when you go Server, Tableau Public, and you click on this, it will ask you to sign in if you haven't done so already. So let me go ahead and do that. So now it's asking for my credentials. So I'm just going to go ahead and log in. Now, once you've logged in, you may get this error, data extract required. The reason you get this error, it's not really an error, it's more like just telling you what you need to do next, is with Tableau, you always think of you've got the data set and you've got Tableau. And when we're publishing to the cloud, in this case, it's the cloud for Tableau Public, you can't just publish the workbook because once you publish it, it has no data to work with. So we actually need to merge them into one, right? So this basically it's asking you to create an extract of the data set so they can merge it, and then the whole thing gets sent up to Tableau Public. So all we have to do is click on this Create Data Extract button. It's going to ask you where you want to save this extract. First, it's going to give you settings. Just leave it as is. Go Save Settings. I'm going to save it into my downloads as I always do. Let's go Downloads, Save. That creates an extract file, and then it'll look like nothing happened. Okay. You'll get this little warning saying it's creating, but sometimes if your computer is really fast, you won't even see that. Then we're going to do that procedure again. So Server, Tableau Public, save to Tableau Public as, or if you're using Tableau Public, the free version, go here to File, you find the same button. Save to Tableau Public as. Okay, now it's asking you what to call it. I'm just going to leave it as is and go Save. It's going to stitch it up, may take a minute or so, and then it's going to publish it to Tableau Public. So once it's finished publishing, it's going to take you directly to Tableau Public. You can see here, this is my profile. And now I can share it with the rest of the world, or as I mentioned earlier, to potential employers, which is why it's so important that when you build these dashboards, especially all my dashboards that I teach you guys, publish it to Tableau Public, because later on, when you're applying for a job and they go, what can you do with Tableau? Or what have you done with analytics? You can showcase everything that you can do, everything from operational dashboards to things like this that are super creative, that shows the breadth of your skills. But that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please check out the website. There's a link in the description below for 2 months free access. Publish the dashboards, send a comment. If you build your own dashboards using the same assets, I'd love to see them. If you sign up to the Jellyman Education course for the Godzilla, it actually comes with way more images, way more things you can download. It has the final workbook files in there, everything that you need. So again, thank you for watching and see you at the next video.